I thought burying my grandmother would be the hardest part. Then I found the letters, 30 years of them, all addressed to the one person who destroyed my life. My name is Rebecca Torres, and I'm a pediatric nurse who believed family meant loyalty. I was so wrong. The funeral home confession. I stood at Grandma Ellen's casket, numb and exhausted. The funeral home smelled like old roses and lemon polish. My black dress felt too tight around my ribs. I couldn't cry anymore. I'd used up all my tears the night she died in her sleep, peaceful and quiet, just like she lived. Mom gripped my hand too tightly, her nails digging into my palm. She leaned close and whispered something that made my skin crawl. "Finally being free," she said, her voice barely audible over the organ music. I turned to look at her, confused. Her eyes were dry. Not a single tear. "Mom, what do you mean?" I asked. She just shook her head and walked toward the front pew. I watched her go, feeling a strange knot form in my stomach. Grandma had been sick for months, but Mom never seemed sad. Just tense, always watching the door like she expected someone. That's when I noticed him. A stranger in a gray suit, watched from the back row, his eyes red and swollen. He wasn't family. I knew everyone in our small circle. This man was tall, maybe 60, with silver hair and hands that wouldn't stop shaking. He stared at the casket like his whole world was inside it. I walked toward him slowly. The funeral director was reading a prayer, but I couldn't focus. Something about this man pulled at me. When I reached the back row, he looked up. His face was wet with tears. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I shouldn't have come." "Did you know my grandmother?" I asked. He nodded, his throat working like he couldn't speak. Then he said the words that changed everything. "Your grandmother was the love of my life." My mouth fell open. I didn't know what to say. Grandma Ellen had been a widow for 20 years. She never dated, never even mentioned another man. But this stranger looked at me with such raw pain that I knew he was telling the truth. I turned to find Mom. She was standing near the casket, frozen, staring at us. Her face had gone completely white. Her hand covered her mouth. When our eyes met, I saw something I'd never seen before. Terror. Pure, absolute terror. "Who are you?" I asked the man, my voice shaking. "I'm David," he said quietly. "And I'm so, so sorry." The locked drawer. Cleaning out Grandma's house felt wrong. It was too soon. She'd only been gone a week, but the landlord needed the place emptied by the end of the month. Mom refused to help. She said she was too emotional, but I knew better. She was avoiding something. I started in the bedroom. Grandma's floral bedspread was still rumpled from the last time she'd slept there. Her reading glasses sat on the nightstand next to a half-finished crossword puzzle. I packed her clothes carefully, folding each sweater like it mattered. Then I found the drawer. It was the bottom drawer of her old oak dresser, and it had 3 padlocks on it. 3? I'd never seen it locked before, never even noticed the locks. My heart started racing as I searched for keys. I found them taped under the dresser, hidden in a small envelope labeled, "For Rebecca." My hands shook as I unlocked each padlock. The drawer was heavy. Inside were bundles of letters tied with red ribbon. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. They smelled like old paper and Grandma's lavender perfume. I pulled one bundle out carefully. The letters were dated. The oldest ones were from 1994. 30 years ago. I was only 5 then. Each envelope was addressed to Grandma in careful handwriting, and every letter was signed the same way. "Forever yours, David." David, the man from the funeral. I untied the ribbon with trembling fingers and opened the first letter. The handwriting looked familiar. Too familiar. I'd seen it before, on birthday cards and old notes. My stomach dropped. It looked exactly like my father's handwriting. But that was impossible. Dad had died when I was 10. He'd never known Grandma's secret lover. I pulled out another letter, then another. The handwriting was identical in all of them. My hands shook as I realized what I was looking at. These weren't just love letters. They were evidence of a 30-year affair. But the timeline made no sense at all. Dad died in 1999. These letters continued until last month, until the week before Grandma died, which meant David wasn't my father. But he wrote exactly like him, used the same phrases, the same way of signing his name. I sat on the floor, surrounded by letters, and felt my world crack apart. Who was David? Why did he write like my dead father? And why had Grandma kept the secret for so long? Mom's midnight visit. Mom appeared at my apartment at 2 a.m., pounding on the door so hard I thought it would break. I stumbled out of bed, still half asleep, and opened it. She pushed past me without waiting for an invitation. Her mascara was streaked down her face in dark rivers. Her hair was wild. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. "Where are they?" she demanded. "Where are the letters?" I backed away from her. "How did you know about the letters?" "Rebecca, please." She grabbed my shoulders. Her fingers dug into my skin. "You can't read them. You have to burn them. Right now, tonight." "Mom, you're scaring me." She let go and started crying. Not quiet tears, loud, gasping sobs that shook her whole body. I'd never seen her like this. Even when Dad died, she'd been composed, sad, but controlled. This was different. This was panic. "Some secrets protect people, Rebecca," she said, her voice cracking. "Some things are better left buried with the dead." "What are you talking about?" I asked. Who is David?" Her face went pale. "You don't know. You can't know." "Then tell me," I said. I walked to my bedroom and grabbed the box of letters. I held them up. "Tell me why Grandma had a secret lover for 30 years. Tell me why you're terrified of me reading these." Mom lunged for the box. I pulled it away. We struggled for a moment, and then something inside her snapped. She slapped me, hard, across the face. The sound echoed in my small apartment. I touched my cheek, shocked. Mom had never hit me. Not once in my entire life. Not even when I was a rebellious teenager. She stood there, her hand still raised, looking just as shocked as I felt. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry, baby, but you have to trust me. Burn them, please." "No," I said. My cheek burned. Tears filled my eyes. "I need to know the truth." Mom turned and walked toward the door. Her shoulders slumped. She looked older than I'd ever seen her. At the door, she stopped. She didn't turn around. She just whispered, barely loud enough for me to hear, "You'll hate me when you know the truth." Then she left. The door clicked shut. I stood there holding the box of letters, my cheeks still stinging, and knew my life would never be the same. The man in gray. I tracked down David through the return addresses on the envelopes. It took me 2 days of searching online and making phone calls. He lived 3 towns over in a place called Riverside. The address led me to a small brick house with a perfect lawn and blue shutters. I sat in my car for 10 minutes before I found the courage to knock. My hands were sweating. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. Finally, I got out and walked up the stone path to his front door. David answered on the second knock. He looked surprised to see me, but not shocked, like he'd been expecting this. "Rebecca," he said quietly, "come in." His house was filled with photos of Grandma. They were everywhere. On the walls, on the mantel, on every surface. Pictures of her smiling, laughing, holding flowers. Some looked recent. Others were decades old. It was like a shrine. "She told me about you," he said, leading me to the living room. He poured tea with trembling hands. The cups rattled against the saucers. "She was so proud of you. Talked about you all the time." "I need to know who you are," I said. I didn't touch the tea. David sat down across from me. He looked tired, old, like carrying the secret had worn him down to nothing. "I met your grandmother 30 years ago," he began, "at the hospital where I worked as a surgeon. She came in with chest pain. It was nothing serious, but we talked, and we kept talking. For hours, for days, for years." "You had an affair," I said. "We fell in love," he corrected gently. "There's a difference." "Was she married then?" "Your grandfather had just died," David said. "She was grieving, lost. I helped her through it. And somewhere along the way, we both realized we'd found something special. I wanted to hate him, but he looked so broken, so genuinely devastated by Grandma's death." "Why did you keep it secret?" I asked. David looked down at his tea. "Your mother," he said. "She made Ellen promise, made her swear she'd never tell anyone about us." "Why would Mom care?" He looked up at me then. His eyes were sad and old. "When I said I'm sorry about your real father," he whispered, "I meant it. I'm so sorry, Rebecca. For everything." My world tilted sideways. The room spun. I gripped the arm of the chair to steady myself. "What are you saying?" "I think you need to take a DNA test," David said softly. "And then you need to ask your mother to tell you the truth. DNA doesn't lie. I ordered a DNA test without telling anyone in my family. The kit arrived in 3 days. I swabbed my cheek in my bathroom, hands shaking so badly I almost dropped the tube. I mailed it back the same day and waited. The waiting was torture. The results arrived on a Tuesday. I was at work, checking my email between patient appointments. The subject line read, "Your DNA results are ready." I couldn't breathe. I locked myself in the staff bathroom and opened it on my phone. David was my biological father. The match was 99.9%. There was no mistake. No error. The man I'd called Dad my entire life, the man I'd mourned for 25 years, wasn't my father at all. Mom had lied about everything. I threw up in the toilet. My whole body shook. I couldn't stop crying. One of the other nurses knocked on the door, asking if I was okay. I told her I had food poisoning and went home early. At home, I stared at the test results for hours. Mom had lied about Dad my entire life. She'd let me mourn a stranger. Let me visit his grave every year on his birthday. Let me believe I looked like him when everyone said I had his eyes. It was all a lie. But it was worse than that. Grandma knew the whole time. Grandma knew David was my father and kept the affair going behind everyone's backs. For 30 years, she'd been with my biological father while I had no idea he existed. I felt sick again. I ran to the bathroom and vomited until there was nothing left. Then I sat on the cold tile floor and called David. He answered on the first ring. "I know," I said. "I took a DNA test. You're my father." There was a long silence. Then David said very quietly, "Oh, I'm sorry you had to find out this way. I wanted to tell you at the funeral, but Ellen made me promise. She said it would destroy your mother." "I don't care about my mother right now," I said. My voice sounded harsh even to my own ears. "I care about the truth. Tell me everything, all of it, now." David took a deep breath. "Can you come back to my house?" he asked. "This isn't a conversation for the phone. You deserve to hear the whole story face to face." I drove to Riverside in a daze. I don't remember the drive. One minute I was at home, the next I was knocking on David's door again. This time when he let me in, I saw the photos differently. I saw Grandma smiling at the camera with my eyes, my nose, my smile. "Tell me," I demanded. "Tell me everything, the forbidden love story." David made coffee this time instead of tea, strong and black. He sat across from me at his kitchen table and began the story I should have known my whole life. "I met your mother first," he said. "Not your grandmother. This was 1989. I was a young surgeon, 30 years old. Your mother was a nurse at the same hospital. We worked together. We fell in love." "You and Mom?" I couldn't picture it. "She was engaged to the man you called Dad," David continued. "But she wasn't happy. He was controlling, mean. She wanted to break it off. But her family pressured her. Said she'd be a failure if she didn't get married." I sipped my coffee. It burned my tongue. "So you had an affair?" "We did. For 6 months, we were planning to run away together." David's voice got quieter. "Then your grandmother found out." "Grandma Ellen?" "She came to the hospital one day and saw us together. Saw us kissing in the parking lot. She confronted your mother that night." David rubbed his face. "Ellen was furious. Said it would ruin the family's reputation. Said your mother had to marry as planned or she'd tell everyone about the affair. Destroy both our careers." "That's blackmail," I said. "It was. Your mother begged her, cried, but Ellen wouldn't budge. So your mother married the man you thought was your father." David's hands clenched around his coffee cup. "But she was already pregnant. With you." The room felt too small, too hot. "He knew I wasn't his?" "No, your mother told him you came early. He believed it. Everyone believed it." David looked at me with sad eyes. "I tried to stay away. I really did. But Ellen started coming to see me. She said she wanted to check on me, make sure I wasn't going to cause trouble." "And she fell in love with you," I finished. David nodded. "She said she understood me. Said she knew what it was like to lose someone. We started talking, meeting for coffee, then dinner. Before I knew it, we were involved. While my mother was married and raising me." "Yes," David's voice broke. "Ellen said your mother had made her choice. Said she was free now, but I think the truth was different. I think Ellen wanted what your mother had. Wanted me because I'd belonged to her daughter first." I felt sick again. "You continued seeing each other for 30 years?" "We did. In secret. Ellen said it was better this way. Safer. She said if your mother ever found out, it would destroy her." David laughed bitterly. But I think the real reason was crueler. Ellen wanted your mother to know, wanted her to watch her own mother steal her happiness. Year after year after year. Your grandmother stole your mother's happiness, David said, and then stole mine. I could have been your father, could have raised you. Instead, I watched from a distance while Ellen told me stories about you, showed me your school photos. It was torture. I stood up. My chair scraped against the floor. I couldn't sit anymore, couldn't breathe in this house full of lies and stolen years. My grandmother was a monster, I whispered. Yes, David agreed. She was Mom's breaking point. I confronted Mom at her office the next day. I didn't call first, didn't give her warning. I just showed up with the DNA results in my shaking hand and walked past her secretary straight into her private office. Mom was on the phone. She looked up, saw my face, and hung up immediately. Rebecca, David is my father, I said. I threw the papers on her desk. You lied to me my entire life. She collapsed into her desk chair like someone had cut her strings. Her face went gray. Oh, God, she whispered. Oh, God, you know? Tell me everything, I demanded. Right now. No more lies. Mom covered her face with her hands. Her shoulders shook. When she finally looked up, her eyes were red. I loved him so much, she said. David. We were going to run away together, start a new life. But my mother found out. She blackmailed you. She destroyed me, Mom corrected. Her voice turned hard. She said if I didn't marry your father, the man you thought was your father, she'd tell everyone about David. Tell the hospital board. Get us both fired. Ruin our lives. So you married him, I said. Even though you were pregnant with David's baby? I thought I could make it work. Thought I could learn to love him. Mom wiped her eyes. But he was cruel. He knew something was wrong. Knew I didn't love him. He took it out on me in little ways. Mean comments, cold shoulders, making me feel small. Did he know about me? No, he thought you were his. He loved you. Mom's voice softened. That was the only good thing about that marriage. He really did love you. He was a better father than he was a husband. I sat down. My legs felt weak. When did you find out about Grandma and David? Mom's face twisted with pain. 2 years after my wedding, I saw them together at a restaurant. They didn't see me, but I saw the way they looked at each other, the way he used to look at me. You didn't say anything. What could I say? Mom laughed, but it sounded broken. My mother had already ruined my life, already forced me into a loveless marriage, already taken away the man I loved. What good would confronting her do? So you just watched? For 28 years, Mom said. She made me watch her steal David from me, year after year. She'd mention him sometimes, tell me she'd seen him at the store, at church, always with this little smile. Like she was rubbing it in. She blackmailed you and then stole your lover, I said slowly. That's why you said you were finally free at the funeral. Mom nodded. I know I should feel guilty. She was my mother, but all I feel is relief. She's gone. She can't hurt me anymore. I looked at my mother, really looked at her for the first time in days. She looked smaller, older, like she'd been carrying this weight for so long it had crushed parts of her. I'm sorry, I said quietly. I'm sorry she did that to you. I'm sorry I lied to you, Mom whispered. About everything. You deserved to know the truth. But I was so afraid. Afraid you'd hate me. Afraid you'd leave. I don't hate you, I said. I hate her. So do I, Mom agreed. So do I. The will's secret clause, Grandma's lawyer called me 3 days later. His name was Mr. Patterson, and he said he needed to see me for a private reading of her will. I almost didn't go. I didn't want anything from Grandma, but curiosity won out. Mr. Patterson's office was downtown in an old brick building. He was a small man with wire-rimmed glasses and a kind face. He shook my hand and offered me coffee. I declined. Your grandmother left very specific instructions, he said, pulling out a thick file. She wanted you to hear this alone, not with your mother present. Why? You'll understand. He opened the file and read. I, Ellen Marie Torres, being of sound mind and body, leave my entire estate to my granddaughter Rebecca Torres. This includes my house, my savings, and all personal belongings. The total value is approximately $400,000. I blinked. 400,000? However, Mr. Patterson continued, there is a condition. You must agree to forgive the family's sins. You must never speak publicly about certain events that occurred before your birth. What? I leaned forward. She's blackmailing me from beyond the grave? Mr. Patterson didn't answer. Instead, he pulled out a laptop and turned it toward me. She recorded a video message for you. She insisted you watch it before making your decision. He pressed play. Grandma's face filled the screen. She was sitting in her bedroom, looking healthy and calm. This must have been recorded months before she died. Hello, Rebecca, Grandma said, smiling. She looked so normal, so loving. It made my skin crawl. If you're watching this, then I'm gone, and I imagine you've learned some uncomfortable truths about our family. I gripped the arms of my chair. I want you to understand something, Grandma continued. Everything I did for love. I met David after your mother broke his heart. She chose security over passion, chose your father's money over David's love. So I took what she threw away. She's insane, I whispered. On screen, Grandma's smile grew wider. I took what should have been your mother's because I deserved happiness too. I'd spent my whole life putting others first. I was tired of being selfless, so I chose myself. I chose David, and I don't regret it. The video showed her reaching for something off camera. I know you probably hate me now. That's fine. Hate me if you want, but take the money. Use it to build a better life. Or give it to your mother. She could use it after all these years of suffering. Mr. Patterson paused the video. He handed me a sealed envelope marked Rebecca's Choice in Grandma's handwriting. Open it, he said gently. Inside were documents, legal papers, recordings, evidence of everything Grandma had done. The blackmail, the threats, letters she'd written to David describing how much she enjoyed hurting Mom. Photos of her and David together, dated and time-stamped, proving the affair. She documented everything, I said, stunned. She wanted you to have proof, Mr. Patterson said. She said in her instructions that you could choose. Take the money and stay silent, or expose her and lose the inheritance. The choice is yours. I looked at the envelope full of evidence, then at the lawyer. What would you do? He smiled sadly. I think you already know, the revenge plan. I took the envelope home and spread everything across my kitchen table. Grandma had documented 30 years of manipulation. There were letters where she bragged about stealing David from Mom, photos of them together at restaurants, hotels, vacation spots, recordings of phone calls where she mocked Mom's unhappy marriage. The evidence was damning. It would destroy Grandma's reputation completely. Everyone thought she was a saint. The perfect mother, the devoted grandmother. No one knew the truth. I could expose everything, post it online, send it to family members, let everyone know what kind of person she really was. Or I could take the $400,000 and disappear. Let Mom finally have peace. I called David and Mom, asked them to meet me at Grandma's old house. The landlord hadn't rented it yet. It was empty except for memories and dust. They arrived within minutes of each other. Mom looked nervous. David looked resigned. I let them in and locked the door behind us. I have something to show you, I said. I laid out the evidence on the kitchen counter. Every photo, every letter, every recording. Grandma left this for me. She wanted to give me a choice. Mom picked up one of the letters. Her hands shook as she read it. She was proud of it, Mom whispered. She was proud of hurting me. David looked at the photos with tears in his eyes. I didn't know she felt this way. She told me she loved me, but this is cruel. We can expose her, I said. Send all of this to the family, post it online, let everyone know what she really was, or we can keep it secret and split the inheritance 3 ways. 3 ways? Mom looked up. You, me, and David. We're the ones she hurt. We deserve the compensation. I crossed my arms. But I want revenge more than I want money. Mom set down the letter. She walked to the window and looked out at Grandma's garden. The flowers were dying. No one had watered them since she passed. I spent 28 years being silent, Mom said quietly. 28 years watching her steal my happiness, watching her smile while my marriage fell apart, while I cried myself to sleep. Then let's make her answer for it, I said. David nodded slowly. She stole 30 years from me, made me hide, made me feel ashamed of loving her. but she wasn't ashamed at all. "We make her answer for this," I said again. I pulled out my phone and opened my email. "I'm going to send this to everyone, aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone who thought she was perfect." "Wait," Mom said. She turned from the window. "Add a message. Tell them this is who Ellen Torres really was. Tell them the truth about the blackmail, about the manipulation, about all of it." I typed out the email carefully, attached every document, every photo, every recording. My finger hovered over the send button. "Are you sure?" David asked. "Once this is out, there's no taking it back." "I'm sure," I said, and I pressed send. Ashes and new beginnings. The family fractured when the email went out. My phone exploded with calls and texts. Some people were angry at me for exposing Grandma. Others thanked me for telling the truth. Aunts and uncles took sides. Cousins unfriended each other on social media. The truth destroyed Grandma's perfect image. People who'd praised her at the funeral now called her manipulative. Her church removed her name from their memorial wall. The hospital where she'd volunteered took down her plaque. It should have felt good, but mostly I just felt tired. Revenge wasn't as satisfying as I thought it would be. It didn't erase the lies, didn't give me back the father I could have known, didn't fix Mom's broken years or David's stolen time. Mr. Patterson called 2 weeks later. He said the will was contested now. Several family members were fighting for the inheritance. It would be tied up in court for months, maybe years. "I'm withdrawing my claim," I told him. "Split it between my mother and David." "Are you sure?" he asked. "I'm sure." I met Mom and David at the funeral home one last time. We had Grandma's ashes. We'd agreed on what to do with them. No ceremony, no memorial, no final words of love. We drove to the parking lot of a shopping mall Grandma had always hated. She'd called it tacky and cheap. Mom opened the urn. David helped her pour the ashes out near a dumpster. They scattered in the wind, gray and meaningless. "Is this wrong?" Mom asked quietly. "No," I said. "She doesn't deserve better." We stood there for a moment in silence. Then David said, "I'm sorry I wasn't there for you, Rebecca. I'm sorry I let Ellen keep me away." "I'm sorry I lied to you," Mom added. "About everything." "We can't change the past," I said, "but we can try to do better now." David and Mom looked at each other, really looked at each other for the first time in decades. Something passed between them. Understanding, maybe, or forgiveness, or just recognition that they'd both been victims of the same manipulative woman. "Would you like to have coffee sometime?" David asked Mom hesitantly. "Just to talk?" Mom smiled. It was a small smile, but it was real. "I'd like that." They started seeing each other after that, carefully, slowly, rebuilding what Grandma had destroyed 30 years ago. I watched them from a distance, giving them space. They held hands, laughed together, healed. I learned something important through all of this. Sometimes the dead can't rest until the living expose their lies. Sometimes revenge isn't about feeling good, it's about telling the truth. And sometimes family isn't about blood or loyalty, it's about choosing to love people despite their failures. Grandma Ellen taught me that families can be toxic, that secrets rot from the inside out, that manipulation destroys more than it protects. But she also taught me something else. She taught me that I'm stronger than the lies I was told, that I deserve the truth, that I can choose who I want to be, regardless of who raised me. I'm Rebecca Torres. I'm a pediatric nurse. I'm the daughter of David and the granddaughter of a manipulator. But I'm also more than that. I'm someone who chose truth over money, someone who chose healing over hate, someone who learned that family means nothing if it's built on lies. And that's a lesson worth $400,000.